My name is Finn O'Sullivan. I'm a singer-songwriter based in Denver, Colorado. You can find me on Instagram at Finn O'Sullivan Music. My website is finnosullivanmusic.com, and you can listen to my music under my name anywhere you stream.
Well, I went through your YouTube channel, man. You've been doing this for a long time.
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
A little while.
Yeah. So when did you pick up a guitar?
Yeah, I started playing guitar, I think when I was about 12. My mom had been just kind of like teaching herself, and one day I was like, "Hey, can you show me some chords?" And she did, and then I kind of just like went from there. Because I've been playing piano for like a really long time, but I never really like clicked with it. But with
Hmm.
guitar, it felt very like natural, and yeah. So it's been a while now.
Well, but I think the guitar seems a lot cooler than the piano, though.
Yeah, I'm definitely biased towards guitar. I like it
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
piano.
Well, did playing piano help you learn the guitar?
I actually do think it did. I think just like playing piano helped me have a better like understanding of the theory itself, which I think was helpful for like when I started playing guitar because like they're different instruments obviously,
Hmm.
but I just feel like having like a little bit of background on a different instrument did help me for sure.
Yeah, at least being able to read notes, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Well, how did you get over this hurdle? Because I remember when I was a kid, my mom wanted me to take piano lessons. But the reason why I failed at it was because I was undisciplined in the sense that, like, I wanted to play songs I heard on the radio immediately, right?
Mhm.
Instead of Swans on the Lake or these little, three blind mice. How did you get over that hurdle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I was taking piano, my first piano teacher had like a more kind of like classical approach to it. So I was playing stuff like classical pieces and just like working out of a book. And it was definitely like I was like, okay, this is cool. What about Taylor Swift? Like what about all these artists that I'm listening
Yeah,
to? So
absolutely.
I don't think I ever necessarily like got over that. And then with my next piano teacher, he was also my guitar teacher too for a while. And he was kind of like more open to like experimenting with different things, and like
Mhm.
kind of incorporating both of those.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when did you start like writing? Because this is where you are now. You're writing your own songs and you're creating. So kind of talk about that transition from just like learning and knowing how to play into that transition of being able to like compose your own composition and make your own songs.
Sure, yeah. I think like songwriting for me really did start after I started playing guitar. Because like with guitar, obviously I started off just like learning songs that I liked and like learning chords. But I feel like pretty soon after I picked it up is when I like wrote my first actual song that I was like
Hmm.
happy enough with to share it with like my parents and my friend.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and so I think just I'm not sure exactly what it was about the guitar, but there was something about it that made me feel like I could actually kind of like create my own music.
Hmm.
And I've always really liked writing and reading, and I think the combination of that with the music just kind of made it happen for me then.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what was your first song? Do you
Um,
remember
I I do remember it. I haven't like played it for a while because it's that thing where like I look back on it and I'm like, that's not great.
that? Really?
But yeah, I mean, it's like it's fine. It's just obviously I'm older now and I've like learned more now. But
Mm.
I look back on it and it's like with like fondness because I was like, oh, that's where I started and
Yeah, yeah.
that's cool and like makes me happy to think about that.
Right. Well, I listened to, I think it was called Getaway, that you did on YouTube, right? But I
Uh-huh.
think I'm ready for. I think you should record that song. Like I think you should fine tune it and record that song.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually a part of like my senior project in high school. And my project that I like gave myself for that was to like write songs in the style of other artists.
Hmm.
So that one was like inspired by Tessa Violet, who I really like. And I did record it, and it's like it. I feel like I could do better. So maybe I'll do like an updated version of that.
Okay.
But thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds this
Well,
fun for me.
well, how do you know you're ready to release a song, or like, because I think just kind of doing this for a little while and I interview artists, I think they're kind of driven by this magical line of perfection, right? Like I don't think you ever reach it. So when do you know that you're comfortable enough to actually release the song to the world?
That's a really good question. I don't I think for me it's like if because sometimes like I write stuff and I'm like, oh, like this is fine, but I'm probably not gonna share it with a bunch of people, or like I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
post it on Instagram or YouTube. But sometimes I'll write stuff and I'll feel just kind of like immediately comfortable sharing it with people. And I feel like at that point, those are the songs that I tend to either like record on my own or record with someone else and just like feel comfortable enough sharing with people. Um, a lot of it has to do with just like the songs that feel the most like authentic to me, I guess, or like I'm not like putting on a show or something. It's just like what's really honest and present for me. And those are the kind of things that I want to share with people.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you talked about like being on songs with other people. Do you like with Lennon, and I know you work with Jamie as well. Like, did you when you choose those people, do you choose them because, well, I guess the question would be like, why do you choose them?
Yeah. Well, with Jamie, it was kind of like we'd known each other for a while, and like we'd just like played music together for fun before. And I think we both thought that it would be really fun to like collaborate on a song together and work on something together. And then with Lennon, with my friends Katie and Genevieve, we were in a songwriting class together. And I think all three of us were just like really impressed with each other's music and just
Mhm.
kind of decided that it would be fun to collaborate with each other and write a song together.
Yeah,
So it's kind of just like the connections that feel the most natural and just kind of happen.
yeah, yeah. Well, how did when the lights come on? How did that come about? Like, how did you sit down and write that, and then kind of add Jamie to it?
Oh, the one with Jamie was Every Time When the Power Comes Back On was with Declan Kennedy, who was like,
Oh,
he's
but
the.
then Jamie's in the video.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. So for some reason, I thought he was singing because I saw him in the
That makes
video.
sense. Yeah, yeah. So when the power comes back on, that was with Declan Kennedy, who I saw like at an open mic in Nashville.
Okay.
And so like I reached out to him and asked if he'd be interested on like putting vocals on the song, and we kind of like did some back and forth with him sending stuff to me. And the little like back and forth lyrics at the end were something that he just came up with on his own, and he was like, you can like keep this if you want or you can get rid of it. But I really
Yeah.
liked it, and I
Yeah,
liked.
yeah.
Yeah, and then Jamie, I asked him to be in the video because like I know that he's an actor and like he has experience with that, and I feel like comfortable already working with him. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it looked like it looked really super polished, super clean. Like I was really impressed by the video.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I did it with my friend Zach Littlefield, who he's done a lot of work for E-Town in Boulder before, and like I had worked with him before, and he's like a really incredible guy. He's very talented and
Yeah.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you come up with the concept for the video or he kind of did that?
It was kind of like a collaboration. My mom was also included.
Mm-hmm.
She's a big part of my like whole process.
Yeah.
So we kind of all just like talked about, I guess, like what the song meant to me, and then kind of came up with like ideas for little like visuals that would make sense along with that, like
Yeah.
the like the scenes in the truck, or the like the little board game scenes that are like
Mm-hmm.
sprinkled throughout, just
Yeah.
things that kind of like connect with the lyrics and the imagery there.
Absolutely. Do you write every day? Do you write songs every day?
um it kind of depends. I like recently I have been writing a lot just because I felt like really inspired to come up with stuff, but it kind of like it goes back and forth. I go through periods of time where I feel like I can't really access that side, or but then I also go through times where I feel like I'm coming up with something every day or every other day. I try to like cut out time in my day to like be creative or like be in that area, whether that turns into a full song or not.
Yeah. Well, I like the way you phrase it, like you can't access that side. So I guess we kind of call it writer's block. What do you do when you do have writer's block?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I feel like I definitely don't like I don't have the key to like
Mm,
solving writer's block, but I think for me like when that happens, I can either like try to push through it and just try to come up with something or
mhm.
like take a step back from it, and sometimes that's like really what I need because if I'm trying to like force myself to do something, that's usually when I come up with things that I don't really end up liking or doing anything with.
Yeah,
So sometimes it's helpful to like take a little step back, take a deep breath, and just like process for a little bit.
yeah. Well, I know you love music a whole lot, but does it ever get sometimes like overwhelming? Like, look, I just need to go bowling or go camping or do something outside of music.
I guess like that's happened like every once in a while, but honestly, I just like music is and songwriting is where I feel like most comfortable. So
Mm.
it just feels like a natural part of my life instead of something that I feel like I have to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so what's the thing with Taylor Swift? How did you become a fan of hers?
Oh my God, that's been like, yeah, years and years of loving Taylor Swift. I think the first song I heard by her was Mean from her album Speak Now. And then I started listening to her like right before she put out Red. And then just like from then on, I just like was obsessed with her.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just like, I think that she's like a really incredible songwriter and she just like, she really knows what she's doing in the music industry. I really like her music.
Yeah. Well, name somebody else that you like.
I'm a really big Phoebe Bridgers fan.
Okay.
Um, she's another like kind of my favorite thing about her is how she can take some like everyday thing that's happened and turn it into something that's like really poetic. And I think that just like her way of songwriting and the way that she composes like melodies and everything is really beautiful. I'm a big fan of hers.
Yeah. Well, now that you've been songwriting, I guess, for a little bit of time now, does it come easier than what it used to?
I think it's always felt somewhat easy to me. I think like when I sit down to write a song, it just kind of happens, which
Mm,
is why when like I've had people ask me about my process before, and I always kind of struggle to answer it because it's like it just sort of happens,
yeah.
and I don't know how to describe it a lot better than that. I think that now I have like a better understanding of like how to like structure songs and like different ways of like writing lyrics and everything, especially like I'm going to school for that now so I have a
Mhm.
better like understanding of the technical side of it, so I guess like in that sense it probably is like a little easier now or just like I understand it better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do you write the hook first, or do you try to come up with the lyrics first, or does it, it just doesn't matter? It just depends on the day.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends. I try to like, I feel like I usually start with like, I have an idea for what I want the song to be about, or I have a specific line in my head that I want to use. And then I
Mhm.
usually try to come up with like a little chord progression so I can have something to work with as I'm like workshopping like melodies and lyrics and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you see your growth throughout your career so far?
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, for sure. I think especially just like because I started when I was a lot younger, it's interesting to kind of like look back, even on the songs that I was like the most proud of when I wrote them, and just see how I don't think that they're like bad and I don't hate them or anything. It's just like I
Hmm.
can definitely see kind of like the change in the way that I write lyrics and like how my voice sounds and everything. And then I also just feel like as I keep practicing and like keep writing songs, I feel like I have more like confidence now because when I first started writing, it was like, oh, I don't want to show this to anyone. Like this is so personal, I can't share it.
Yeah.
Um, but now I've realized that that's kind of like people want to hear it. So
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, what do you think your lane is, or which lane do you want to be? Are you pop? Are you indie folk? What are you?
yeah, I think that I'm probably more of like the indie folk genre, more than like the pop genre. I'm definitely like interested in like experimenting with different sounds, but that's kind of the one that feels the most like home to me, and that's where I feel like my style kind of fits in the best.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I also listen to the song Taste, which I really like a lot.
Oh,
And that
thank you.
seems to be very different than anything else you've done. So
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Yeah, so I wrote that song like a year and a half ago now or something. And my friend Jacob Montano, who goes to CU Denver too, he'd like reached out to me and said, "Hey, if you ever want to like record something with me, let me know." And I'd kind of been wanting to like do something with that song, so I decided to work with him on that. And he was kind of the one that like brought in that different sound to it, which was really cool to me. And at first I was like, "Oh, that's not what I was expecting," but I really liked it, and I feel like it fit with the song. Like the drums are really different, and then the like guitar stuff, and I don't know, I thought it was really cool. And that's the thing about like working with different people and different producers, is you can always like end up with something unexpected that ends up being like really cool and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, since you know a lot of artists, have you written a song before where you go like, well, this maybe not fit me as an artist, but it might fit Joe or John or Jamie or something like that?
Right. I don't think I've ever I don't know if I've necessarily done that before. We actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because my last I'm in like a songwriting ensemble in school right now, and our last
Mm-hmm.
like prompt that we had to do was to like write a song that we could pitch to another artist.
Okay.
So yeah, it was interesting, and it was a challenge. I really like Casey Musgraves. So I tried to like write a more like country style
Mm-hmm.
song. So I guess that's kind of like that. But I am mostly like writing stuff that fits with my genre.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think you could write a song for Taylor Swift?
That I think I could try. I don't know if it would work out, but I would like to try. That would be fun.
Listen, I'm sure you could. Because I think that in the industry now, a lot of the songs are so similar, and
Mhm.
and maybe not for Taylor Swift, right? But like when you listen to the Dua Lipas and the Ariana Grandes, they're very similar in what they say and kind of what they talk about. I think like you have a lot of the same people who are writing the songs.
Yeah, definitely. I think that like, and especially it's just like I feel like in the industry people are looking for like the most recent greatest thing and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of trying to like replicate it, which is like in some ways kind of frustrating if you're doing something different, but it's also like it's cool, and like it's interesting definitely to try to like write songs like that too.
Yeah. Well, what's the goal for you now? Like, are you trying to, I guess, kind of elevate yourself on your own, get like, do your own thing, YouTube, and then eventually get the most spins on Spotify individually? Or are you trying to get on a record label, or what are you trying to do?
Yeah, I think as of right now I'm more interested in the kind of like indie DIY career.
Mm-hmm.
And especially just because I'm like still in college and everything, and still like learning about the industry and everything like that. I'm kind of like, it's me, and then like my parents are really supportive and like help me a lot with just like with all the music stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think like as of right now, it's just like it's me trying to get
Yeah,
my voice out there and get my music out there and
yeah.
everything.
Well, do you see your life? Could you ever see your life without music?
No. Just like I have to be honest, like I don't know, music has just been like I feel like such a huge part of my life since I was really young. Even before I started playing, I was just like grew up in a house like both of my parents played music and are huge music fans, so I grew up listening to music. And like I've met people before who listen to music but don't feel like it's a big part of their life, and that's just something that I feel like I can't really relate to.
Mhm.
So like imagining my life without music and without like songwriting is like I think I would be a completely different person.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in your classes that you're studying now, like how are they breaking down music for you? Like, well, I guess another question I would also have is, did you know a lot of stuff going in, like stuff that you learned on your own prior to like now being in school, or are you just learning so many new things in school?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a combination of both, because like as a songwriter there are definitely things that you just learn on your own through like practice and trial and error. Um, but like at school, I have like music theory classes and music business classes. And so I just feel like I'm getting a really well-rounded understanding of like not only music and songwriting, but like the industry as well, and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
how it all works and like fits together. So I think I went in with like some knowledge, and I feel like I've learned so much even just like being here for a little over a year.
Yeah. Well, what were you surprised about when you took the business part of it?
Yeah, I think the business side was the side that I think I knew the least about, just because like I haven't had a lot of experience with that, but I'm really
Mm-hmm.
interested in it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like it's really interesting to me to kind of like look at trends, I guess, in music and with musicians, and just see how things are like constantly changing, and it's really important to just kind of like keep up to date with that, to know
Mm-hmm.
like what's popular, or like what's like important to know right now in the business, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So live performances, how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I I think I'm always gonna like be nervous before I play live. I think that's something that's like never gonna fully go away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like that kind of helps, honestly, to have a little bit of nerves around it. I feel like it
Yeah.
makes it do better. Um, I always have like a set list or something, just like an idea of songs that I want to play and like covers. And obviously like practicing beforehand so that like when I play live is not like the first time I've sung anything that day.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and then I kind of just like always try to remind myself to just like be open and like honest on stage, and don't try to like be someone I'm not, or like put on something, or like put on a mask or whatever that doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah. Well, do the jitters go away fairly quickly? Like if you have a set list of doing 3 songs or 4 songs, whatever you're gonna do they kind of go away like 30 seconds or a minute into the first song, or does it still kind of take a while for the jitters to go away?
Usually it's like I'll start playing the first song and pretty quickly I'll feel okay
All right.
and solid. It's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like the anticipation and like the build up and the waiting is the part that makes me really nervous. And then when I actually start, it's like, oh, okay, we're good, we're fine.
Yeah. 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 Right. Well, do you find it's easier to perform like in front of people you don't know? Like, I'm assuming it might be more difficult to perform like in front of your friends and your parents that come to a show as opposed to just going to a show where you don't know anyone.
Yeah, I have like always felt that way, and I've never really understood why. But yeah, just like performing in front of my friends or my parents or like classmates always makes me like way more nervous than if I'm just like, oh, these people don't know me.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, I guess that takes some of the pressure away because they don't know me, and like they don't know any of my like background or my story or anything. So it's kind of like a blank slate for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, which song that you've created thus far has been the most popular uh, amongst your audience?
Yeah, I can think of like two. I think the main one would be When the Power Comes Back On.
Mhm.
Um, just because that was the one, that one won the John Lennon songwriting contest this year, which was like crazy. So um so that one was like, that one feels like, I mean it's like my favorite thing that I've ever written, so it's like it's cool to see other people like responding to it in that way. And I feel like just like friends have told me that they really like that one. And then I also have this song called Big Shot, which is
Yeah,
like
I listened to that one. Yeah.
a few
Mhm.
of my friends have said like that's their favorite song of mine, which makes me really happy because I really like that one, and I have a lot of fun performing it.
Yeah. 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 Do you have a definition of success?
um, I guess for me, like being successful to me just means being in a place where I feel like I I'm able to like really love what I'm doing, and also like make at least sort of a living off of it, just like the combination of that. But success to me has never meant being like the biggest artist or musician in the world. It's just kind of like I want to be in a place where I can share my music and myself with people, and like create stuff that people can relate to.
Absolutely. So at the same time that you're working on your music, Do you work on your image as well? Like a lot of the artists today come with an image as well. So like if we see a silhouette of Ariana Grande with the rabbit ears, right? Like we know who that is.
Yeah.
Or are you just going like, look, I'm me, I'm Adele, I sing, kind of take me as I am?
Yeah, I think that like as of right now, I'm not as much working on like my image or like my brand, but also just like I think that what comes with like writing music and like posting things online and sharing that with people, like you're automatically sort of like working towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like creating sort of a brand for myself is something that I want to work more on because I think that that's like an important thing to have as an artist if you want to be able to like pursue it as a career.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm working on it like a little bit, but mostly just like creating and writing and sharing that.
Well, what do you think you might want your image to be?
Oh man, that's a good
Well,
question.
because the reason why I said it is because I think you've changed so much over the years, not in a bad
Yeah.
way, but I can
Yeah.
definitely I can see your maturity. Your glasses
Yeah.
are different. Your hair is different, right? Like I watched when you did your poem "Beautiful," right? And I think you're so I don't want to say it's not 180, but you're a little bit removed from beautiful now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that like a lot of that shift just like has come from me like growing up and getting older because like I started all of this when I was like before I was even in high school really.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've come into myself a lot more over the years and so I think that that's kind of the thing that I want to like incorporate or like bring to the forefront is just like this feeling of like being able to completely just like be myself and be like vulnerable and open with people and just like not having to kind of like hide or like suppress parts of myself
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, the $1 million question is when did you know that you wanted to pursue this as a career?
Yeah, it took me like a little bit after I started writing songs. In my freshman year of high school, I entered E-Town's Handmade Songs contest, and I ended up being one of the 5 winners of that, which was like such a cool experience. I love that E-Town like had that opportunity for kids in high school,
Mhm.
and I think that that was kind of when I realized that I might want to pursue it as more than just a hobby because like I got with that I got to like go into the studio and record my song and I'd never done that before and I also got to like perform in front of an audience
Yeah.
and it just felt like so good to me and it just like made me really happy to be
Mhm.
doing that and it kind of made me realize that it was more than just a hobby for me and it was something that like because it's the thing that I felt the most passionate about it was the thing that I wanted to like pursue as a career.
Yeah. Well, speaking about going into the booth, what was that like the first time you went into the booth?
I was so nervous. I was just like, because like it just feels different than like, obviously it feels different than performing live because now it's like, oh, I want to like do the very best that I can. And I just like, I didn't know exactly what to expect.
Mhm.
But luckily, the producer that I worked with, that I've like continued to work with over the years, John McVeigh, he's like one of the nicest people that I've ever met, and he's just like so kind and supportive, and just made me feel like really comfortable.
Mhm.
So even if it was like I would mess up or something, he'd be like, "Oh, it's fine. Yeah, we can just do it again."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it was just like I was nervous going in, and then I was like, "Oh, this is really fun," and just like the whole process of seeing like other instruments added to my song and like other musicians coming in and playing with it and like connecting with it in that way was like so cool and like inspiring and exciting for me.
Yeah. Well, what was it like the first time you actually like heard your recorded voice? Because I'm sure, after you hear live, you hear live, you hear live, then all of a sudden, like you get this moment where you actually hear yourself recorded.
Yeah, I think like the first time that I heard it played back, it was kind of like I don't know. I feel like I've like talked with people who have this experience of like either like hearing a recording of themselves, like just a video of them talking or something, and they're like, "Wait, is that me? Is that what I
Mhm.
sound like?" And
Yeah.
it was kind of like that for me, and it was like it was weird at first, but progressively got less weird and felt like more comfortable and like, oh yeah, that is me. That's okay. We're
Okay.
good.
Right. But when you hear it though, do you kind of say, "Oh, I could have done a better job here," or do you want to change the lyrics, or what happens after you when you're listening to it?
Yeah, I think like in the recording process, I never take like the first take of vocals or whatever because it's always like I'll do it once and then hear it and be like, oh, I was like a little bit off on this note here, or like I want to phrase this a little differently or something. So there are definitely things like when I hear it that I want to change.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, do you think you've experienced enough in your journey to be a mentor to someone now, like to the old you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that question. I feel like to like I wouldn't say that I would like be a mentor to like other people in my life, but I feel like to my old or my younger
Your younger
self,
self, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
Mhm,
feel like I could, offer just like some words of advice or encouragement that would like
mhm.
make her feel better and like more secure and
What
everything.
what was will share? Do share. Tell me what you would tell her.
Yeah, I think just the big thing is that I would want to say that like your voice really does matter, and like I know that sometimes it feels like you're just doing this and it's like you feel like, oh, I'm the only one that's going to relate to this, but that's not necessarily true. Like I feel like there's always going to be at least one other person out there who's going to be like, oh yeah, I get that, I understand.
Mhm, mhm.
And yeah, just again coming back to the like authenticity part, just like be true to yourself, even though it sounds really cheesy. Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
just so important as an artist, I think.
yeah. Well, what has surprised you so far on your musical journey? Like when you're younger, you're thinking like, look, I'm gonna be like Taylor Swift or whoever you decide to be like, right? But you don't necessarily know what they've kind of gone through unless you've seen kind of like a behind the music thing on it. But give me some things that have kind of surprised you about, or some of the things you've learned that like, oh, I didn't know I was gonna have to do that, or I didn't know I was gonna have to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I've had an experience in the past with someone who wanted to kind of like give me advice in my music career, and like he he didn't really listen to me and what I
Mm,
wanted, and he wanted to kind of like tell me what success looked like. And so I've kind of had to learn to like speak up for myself a little bit with that type of stuff. Like, no, I know like who I am and what I want for the most part.
mhm,
And so just like coming across that, or like I've had someone be like, "Oh, you have a really nice voice, but like you should write less about relationships. It would be better that way." And just having to be like, "Well, this is my stuff, not yours."
mhm, mhm.
um and so I guess yeah, just like that, having to learn to feel really like solid in myself, because like while there are people who are going to like really appreciate what I'm doing and really like it, there are people who are not.
That's
And
right.
like luckily I haven't had any like really terrible experiences like that, but just like having to remind myself that like it's okay to like be solid in yourself, and it's okay to like tell people how you're feeling and like who you are and what you feel strongly about.
Yeah. Well, you kind of mentioned that you know who you are and where you are. So sonically, do you think you're going to stay where you are, or are you looking for a change, or what are you looking for?
Yeah, I think for the most part the sound that I have right now is probably going to be like pretty similar to the rest of my music career, whatever that may be. But I also am always interested in like exploring other things, because I feel like it's really easy to kind of get stuck in one sound or one genre, and I think it's important to stay like open to others. And
Hmm.
while I probably am never going to be a a big pop artist or like a country artist necessarily, like I definitely enjoy kind of like dipping my toe into those and seeing what
Yeah,
it's like.
yeah. Well, you did say that you do sing about relationships. Do you know why that might be?
Yeah, I think I like for whatever reason that's just the thing that like comes easiest for me, and
Hmm.
like not even just like romantic relationships, but like family stuff or like friendships. Just I think like the connection between people feels like something that I can really like connect with and like dive into in my songwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that that's the stuff that like inspires me the most to write.
Yeah. Well, you know, I know that you're a Taylor Swift fan, so she's written some good songs. Can you tell me about some of those songs that she's written, like why they are good? Like, give me a song that you think that she's written that's good, and then kind of tell me why it's good.
Sure. Um, let me think. I so her album Evermore that she put out last year,
Mhm.
one of my favorite songs from that is this one called Cowboy Like Me. And I think like just the like her way of storytelling it is
Mhm.
really interesting, and like the language that she uses is really interesting, and it's kind of like there's this line in it that like at the beginning means something completely different when she says it again at the end because of the story and like the narrative that she set up. And I just think like with a lot of her songs, like the storytelling in them, especially in her most recent couple of albums, is like so strong. And that's like I love the like storytelling aspect of songwriting.
Yeah.
And so I think that she has done that really well, and I really appreciate that.
Well, if you had a label, you owned a label, music label, are you looking to sign someone like Taylor Swift?
Oh, um, yeah, I mean, like, sure. I think if I owned a label, I would just like, I'd be looking for people who, feel really strongly about songwriting and like have the kind of same like values and morals that I do in terms of both just like in general in life, but also in music. Because for me, it's like I never want to like force myself to like fit into what's the most popular right now. And so I think it's really cool when other artists are also just kind of like doing their own thing. So those are the
Mhm.
kind of people that I would want to work with.
Absolutely. Well, your parents are very supportive, and I think that's an absolute positive. Do you
Hmm.
think you would be somewhere differently if your parents were not as supportive?
Yeah, I think like I feel so lucky to have parents that have never told me to have a backup plan.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that if they were people who like didn't believe in me as much or didn't want to support me as much because they felt like I should be going into a career that is more like safe. Um, I think I would definitely be in a really different place. Like I don't know how different. I'm assuming that I would still like love music and songwriting, but I would probably feel less like confident in it and comfortable with it. So I'm definitely like very thankful to have the parents that I do.
Absolutely. Have you written your best song yet?
I don't think so. I think that there's like always room for improvement. And I feel like, if I were to say, yes, I've written my best song, that would just kind of like close a lot of doors for me. So try to
Mhm.
keep those open.
Absolutely. Well, how do you practice? Do you sing every day, or you sing in the shower, in the car, on the way to way to school?
Yeah, I mean, definitely singing in the car, love that. But I play my guitar and sing every day. Usually, like when I'm practicing, I just like sing other people's songs, like covers and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I do it.
Yeah. Well, do you break songs down now? Like when you hear a song you haven't heard before on the radio, do you kind of break it down? Like, oh, okay, this is a great pre-chorus, this is a hook, do you break it down like that?
I think sometimes I just like, listen to music to listen to music, but sometimes I'll like hear a song and I'll be like, oh, that's really interesting, or like that specific like melodic choice they just made was like really cool and unique. When I listen to songs, like the thing that sticks out to me most is the lyrics, because that's what I pay attention to the most when I write.
Hmm.
So if there's like an interesting like turn of phrase or like rhyme scheme or something that sticks out to me, I'll like notice that.
No, absolutely. Has your journey been fun?
It's been so fun. I feel like I've loved pretty much like every moment of it and every experience, and it's all like about learning and growing, and I love it so much.
Yeah. This out of all the songs that you've written, what has been like what is your favorite one, like the one you're just most proud of?
I think it would have to be When the Power Comes Back On. That one for me is like it's still one that I feel like I can relate to, and it's still one that I look back on and feel like just really proud of like what I was able to do with it, I guess, and how I
Mm-hmm.
was able to kind of like write about that experience and like those feelings that I was having.
Absolutely. I know you're still beginning your journey, but have you thought about what you want your legacy to be?
Oh yeah, I think like again, I just like I want to be able to like write music and perform music and put out music that people like and can relate to and like can find something to like take away from it too. So I just, I hope that there's some people out there eventually who are like maybe already there, like who will find my music someday,
Mm-hmm.
and just like find some way to really connect with it.
Yeah. Well, do you set goals at all? Like say, okay, well, I'm going to write such a number of songs in a month, or like I'm going to play at a live venue. Do you set any of those kind of goals?
You know, I don't so much do like specific goal setting. I guess like in my head I have like ideas of like what I want to accomplish, but they're pretty like loose and
Mm-hmm.
open-ended. Like, oh yeah, this month I want to make sure to at least write like one or two songs that I'm like
Absolutely.
proud of, or like, oh, I want to, you know, record this or like play a live show somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that, I guess.
Well, but do you have a live show goal? Like, I want to, you know, Madison Square Garden, like Jay-Z, I want to pack the house. Do you have one of those goals? Like, what festival or whatever would you like to play in?
Oh my gosh. I feel like when I think about this, I just like automatically think of like venues around Colorado that I've seen
Yeah.
shows at that are really cool. I mean, like Red Rocks is like a big goal, but I feel like that would be really cool one day, even just like as an opener or something, because that's
Mm-hmm.
just like an iconic Colorado place. I also like I've seen shows like at the Bluebird before, and I feel like that's always a really cool experience. So I just think it would be really cool to like eventually play shows at the places where I've seen some of my favorite artists before.
Absolutely. Are you working on something now?
Yeah, I actually, so I, over the past year, I've been writing an album and I've never like written songs specifically for a project. Like I've taken songs and like put them on an EP or something before. But this one, I've been very like intentional with what I want to put on. And my plan is to like record and produce it by myself, and put it out. I don't know when, but I've been working on that. Yeah, so.